The Galactic Concord had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. Nobody remembered a time before them. Nobody dared imagine a time after them. The seven elder races sat at the top of all creation, and they had grown comfortable in their power. They had forgotten what it meant to struggle. They had forgotten what it meant to fear. The Velkhari were the oldest among them. Their scales shimmered with colors that had no names in any human language. They moved slowly, thought carefully, and believed themselves to be the wisest creatures in existence. The Drothari were warriors, massive beings with 4 arms and skin like stone. They had conquered 1,000 worlds before the Concord brought them peace. The Hymari were made of living crystal, beautiful and cold, their bodies singing with frequencies that could shatter metal. And there were others too, each ancient, each powerful, each absolutely certain of their place in the universe. For 12,000 years, they had watched younger species rise and fall. Some were allowed to join the Concord as servants. Others were crushed before they could become threats. It was simply the way of things. The strong ruled. The weak obeyed. This was the law of the galaxy. Then humanity arrived. 200 years ago, the first human ships had stumbled through a hyperspace corridor and nearly crashed into a Velkhari trading station. The elder races had studied these strange new creatures with amusement. Humans were so small, so fragile, so short-lived. They came from a planet that the Concord scientists classified as a death world, a place of extreme conditions where nothing should have evolved intelligence. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was corrosive. Predators roamed every corner of the land and sea. Diseases mutated constantly. The weather could kill in 100 different ways, and yet somehow, these soft, weak creatures had survived. More than survived. They had built cities. They had split atoms. They had reached for the stars. The Concord found this mildly interesting but not concerning. After all, many species had reached space. Few lasted more than a few centuries before destroying themselves or being absorbed into the greater galactic order. But humanity did something unexpected. They spread. In 200 years, humans had colonized 340 worlds. This was faster than any species in recorded history. They did not wait for permission. They did not ask for guidance. They simply moved outward, building and growing and multiplying at a rate that the elder races found almost obscene. Worse still, they learned too quickly. Technology that took the Velkhari 10,000 years to develop was being reverse-engineered by human scientists in mere decades. They asked questions that made the elder races uncomfortable. They pushed boundaries that had stood for millennia. And most troubling of all, they refused to submit. The Galactic Concord had laws. Every species that wished to exist in Concord space had to pay taxes in resources and personnel. Young males and females of every species were conscripted into the Concord military, where they served the interests of the elder races. This was not negotiable. This was the price of peace. Humanity said no. Ambassador Thelios of the Velkhari had been arguing for action for 50 years. He stood now before the Grand Chamber, the great hall where the fate of species was decided. Light filtered through crystal walls that were older than most civilizations. Representatives of all 7 elder races sat in their elevated positions, looking down at the central podium where Thelios presented his case. His scales rippled with colors of warning as he spoke. His voice was calm, but there was venom beneath the surface. Fellow members of the Concord, I have warned you about this species for decades. You did not listen. You thought them amusing. You thought them harmless. You were wrong. He waved a clawed hand, and holographic displays filled the chamber. Star maps showed human territory spreading like a red stain across the spiral arm. Charts displayed their population growth, their industrial output, their military capabilities. 340 worlds in 200 years, Thelios continued. Their population has grown from 8 billion to over 400 billion. They have built shipyards in secret locations we cannot find. They have developed weapons we do not understand. And they have done all of this while pretending to be peaceful traders and explorers. A Drothari general named Korath leaned forward in his seat. He was old even by his species' standards, a veteran of wars that had ended before humanity discovered fire. You speak of them as if they are a threat. They have no dreadnoughts. Their largest ships are a fraction of the size of ours. What danger could they possibly pose? Thelios turned to face him. The danger is not what they are, General. The danger is what they could become. Every projection shows the same result. In another 200 years, they will outnumber us. In 500 years, They will outproduce us. In 1,000 years, they will be unstoppable. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The elder races were not used to thinking about the future in this way. They changed slowly. They evolved slowly. They could not understand a species that transformed itself with every generation. They are Deathworlders, Thelios pressed on. They evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every single day. They are not like us. They do not think like us. They do not value what we value. They are aggressive, adaptable, and dangerously creative. And they have no respect for our authority. He paused, letting his words sink in. I have studied their history. Do you know what they do to each other? They wage wars that kill millions of their own kind. They build weapons capable of destroying their entire planet. They compete against each other with a ferocity that borders on madness. And somehow, this competition makes them stronger. Every war, every conflict, every disaster only teaches them new ways to survive. The chamber was silent now. Even the Hymari had stopped their eternal singing to listen. If we allow them to continue growing, we will face an enemy unlike any we have ever known. An enemy that does not fear death because they have always lived with it. An enemy that does not give up because giving up means extinction. An enemy that will never, ever stop fighting until they have won or been completely destroyed. Thelios raised his claws. I move for a vote. Total subjugation, Order 7. We will give humanity a choice. Submit completely to Concord authority, accept permanent limitations on their expansion and technology, and provide tribute as all lesser species must, or face the full military might of the Galactic Concord. General Korath nodded slowly. And if they choose to fight? Thelios smiled, showing rows of needle-sharp teeth. Then we will do what we have done to every species that has challenged us. We will burn their worlds. We will destroy their fleets. We will reduce their population to a manageable number and scatter the survivors across 100 prison planets. In 1,000 years, no one will even remember they existed. The vote was called. One by one, the elder races cast their decisions. The Velkari voted yes. The Drothari voted yes. The Hymari sang their agreement. The others followed. It was unanimous. Total Subjugation Order 7 was authorized. Fleet Admiral Korath was given command of the largest armada assembled in 3,000 years. 400 warships would travel to the human homeworld and deliver the ultimatum personally. The elder races congratulated themselves on their wisdom. They had identified a threat and moved to eliminate it before it could grow. This was proper. This was right. This was the way things had always been done. None of them stopped to ask a simple question. What would humanity do when faced with extinction? They would learn the answer soon enough, and it would change everything. Fleet Admiral Korath stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the stars blur as 400 warships tore through hyperspace. The Eternal Mandate was the largest vessel in the Drothari fleet, a mountain of metal and weapons that had conquered worlds before humans had invented writing. Its guns could crack planets. Its shields could withstand the fury of a dying star. It was, in every way that mattered, invincible. Korath had commanded this ship for 300 years. He had fought in campaigns against species whose names were now forgotten. He had watched civilizations crumble beneath his weapons. He had never known defeat. He did not expect to know it now. The journey to Earth took 14 standard days. Korath spent the time reviewing what little intelligence the Concord had gathered about humanity. He studied their military vessels, small and crude things that relied on chemical propulsion and primitive energy weapons. He examined their planetary defenses, basic shield generators and orbital platforms that would fall in minutes against a proper assault. He read reports about their society, their governments, their endless petty conflicts with each other. Everything he learned confirmed what he already believed. Humanity was not a threat. They were an annoyance. A minor problem to be solved and forgotten. The Concord was being cautious, nothing more. Still, something bothered him. A small voice in the back of his mind that whispered warnings he could not quite understand. He had lived long enough to trust such instincts, but he could find no logical reason for his unease. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the human home system. Korath looked at the main display and saw a small yellow star surrounded by 8 planets. The third planet from the sun was Earth, the birthplace of humanity. Even from this distance, he could see the lights of their cities glowing on the night side. Billions of lives, going about their daily business, unaware that death had arrived. Begin broadcasting the ultimatum on all frequencies, Korath ordered. I want every human with a communication device to hear my words. His communications officer obeyed. Korath straightened his posture, adjusted his ceremonial armor, and spoke. Attention, people of Earth and all human territories. I am Fleet Admiral Korath of the Drothari Armada, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Concord. You have been found in violation of Concord law. Your expansion has exceeded acceptable limits. Your technology development has proceeded without authorization. Your refusal to pay proper tribute is an insult to the elder races. He paused, letting his words sink in. The Concord has authorized total subjugation Order 7 against your species. You will immediately surrender all military vessels. You will accept permanent Concord oversight of your governments. You will provide tribute in resources and personnel as demanded. You will cease all expansion beyond your current borders, and you will submit to whatever additional terms the Concord deems necessary. Korath leaned forward. You have one standard rotation to comply. If you do not, my fleet will begin the systematic destruction of your civilization. We will start with your orbital stations and military bases, then we will move to your colonies, and finally, we will reduce your homeworld to ash. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. There will be only obedience or extinction. He gestured for the transmission to end. Now we wait, he said to his officers. They will argue among themselves for a few hours, then they will surrender. They always do, but the hours passed, and no surrender came. Instead, after exactly 1 hour, a single transmission arrived from Earth. Korath ordered it displayed on the main screen. A human female appeared. She was small, even by human standards, with dark hair pulled back from her face and eyes that held no fear. She wore a simple uniform marked with symbols that Korath's translators identified as belonging to the United Terran Compact, the primary human government. I am Secretary General Elena Vasquez, she said. I speak for the people of Earth and all human territories. We have received your ultimatum. Korath waited for the expected pleas for mercy, the desperate attempts to negotiate, the pathetic begging that he had heard from so many species before. Instead, Vasquez smiled. We decline. The bridge fell silent. Korath felt his secondary heart skip a beat. In 10,000 years of Concord history, no species had ever declined an ultimatum. Not once. The disparity in power was always too great. The threat of destruction too certain. Surrender was the only logical choice. You decline, Korath repeated slowly, as if he had not heard correctly. Yes, we will not surrender our ships. We will not accept your oversight. We will not pay tribute to races that have done nothing to earn it. And we will certainly not stop expanding. The universe is large. There is room for all of us, if you are willing to share. Korath's scales darkened with anger. You have one warship for every million of your population. Your largest vessels are toys compared to ours. You possess no dreadnoughts, no planetary shields, no weapons that can scratch our hulls. You are insects, Secretary General. Insects that have forgotten their place. Vasquez's smile did not waver. Admiral, your Concord has made a mistake. It is a mistake that every empire makes, sooner or later. You counted our ships. You measured our technology. You compared numbers and assumed you understood what you were facing. She leaned closer to the camera. But you never asked the right question. Despite himself, Korath felt a chill run through his massive body. And what question is that, human? You never asked what humans do when our backs are against the wall. You never studied our history closely enough to understand who we really are. You looked at our wars and saw chaos. You looked at our conflicts and saw weakness. You did not see what those wars and conflicts taught us. Vasquez's eyes hardened. They taught us how to survive. They taught us how to fight against impossible odds. They taught us that surrender is never an option, because those who surrender die. And they taught us that the only way to face extinction is to become so dangerous that extinction becomes afraid of us. Korath found that he could not look away from those small, fierce eyes. Admiral, my species has faced extinction many times. Ice ages that froze our world. Plagues that killed half our population. Predators that hunted us when we were still living in caves. Ourselves, when we developed weapons capable of destroying everything. And every single time, we survived. Not because we were the strongest or the fastest or the smartest. We survived because we refused to give up. We survived because we would rather die fighting than live on our knees. She straightened. So here is my answer to your ultimatum. We will not surrender. We will not submit. We will not be subjugated. You can bring your 400 ships. You can bring 4,000. You can bring every vessel in the Concord fleet. It will not matter, because we have been preparing for this moment since the day we first encountered your kind. We have been watching you, learning from you. And now we are ready. The transmission flickered. You wanted to teach humanity fear, Admiral. Instead, you have reminded us why we stopped being afraid a long time ago. We will see you on the battlefield. The screen went dark. Korath stood motionless for a long moment. Around him, his officers exchanged nervous glances. The confidence that had filled the bridge minutes ago had evaporated like morning mist. Admiral? His second-in-command asked carefully. What are your orders? Korath did not answer immediately. He was remembering something from his own ancient past, something he had learned when he was young and still knew what it meant to hunt. He remembered the difference between prey that fled in panic and prey that went still before striking. Humanity was not panicking, and that terrified him more than anything else. We wait, he said finally, and we watch. Something tells me this is not going to be as simple as we thought. He was right, but he had no idea how right he was. The ultimatum expired, and nothing happened. Admiral Korath had expected many things. He had expected desperate attacks from human warships. He had expected panicked evacuation attempts. He had expected the chaos and fear that always came when a weaker species realized its end was near. Instead, he got silence. The human fleet, small as it was, simply withdrew. Their ships pulled back from the system's edge and vanished into hyperspace without firing a single shot. The orbital stations around Earth went dark. Communication channels that had buzzed with activity for 2 centuries fell completely silent. Korath sent scout ships to investigate. They found nothing. Every human world they visited was the same. Cities stood empty. Factories had stopped running. Spaceports were abandoned. It was as if the entire human species had simply vanished. They are running, Ambassador Thalios said when he received the reports. His scales shimmered with satisfaction. The Deathworlders have finally learned fear. They know they cannot fight us, so they flee like the animals they are. But Korath was not so sure. He ordered his scouts to search further, to look in the spaces between stars where sensors had difficulty reaching. What they found made his blood run cold. Human colonies were not empty. They were being evacuated. Millions, then billions, of humans were being transported to locations that the Concord could not identify. The evacuation was organized, efficient, almost military in its precision. There was no panic. There was no chaos. Every man, woman, and child knew exactly where to go and what to do. And the factories had not stopped running. They had been moved. Deep space sensors detected massive energy signatures in regions that should have been empty. Asteroid belts throughout human territory showed signs of extensive mining. Strange ships, unlike anything in the Concord database, were seen briefly before disappearing into unknown hyperspace corridors. They are building something, Korath reported to the Concord. I do not know what, but they are building it in places we cannot reach. The elder races dismissed his concerns. The Velkari laughed at the idea that humans could hide anything of importance from Concord sensors. The Hymari calculated that no species could build a meaningful military force in the time available. The other races agreed that this was simply the death throes of a doomed civilization. Nothing more. Korath was ordered to begin the subjugation. He refused. Something is wrong, he insisted. Prey does not behave this way. Prey runs in terror. Prey fights in desperation. Prey does not go silent and still, while building secret weapons in hidden locations. This feels like a trap. The Concord overruled him. A Velkari admiral named Thesson was given command of the operation. She was younger than Korath, eager for glory, and absolutely certain that humans posed no real threat. Thesson took 200 ships to Earth. She found the planet defended by a handful of orbital stations and perhaps 50 small warships. Her fleet outnumbered the defenders 4-1, and her ships were vastly superior in every way. The battle lasted less than an hour. The human defenders fought bravely but were overwhelmed. Their ships exploded one by one. Their stations were reduced to debris. Thesson broadcast her victory to the entire Concord, declaring that humanity's pathetic resistance had been crushed. But when she sent troops to occupy Earth's surface, they found the cities empty, not destroyed, not ruined. Simply empty. Every building, every home, every facility had been stripped of anything useful. The humans had taken everything and everyone that mattered, and left behind only hollow shells. Thesson reported this with confusion. The Concord celebrated anyway. They assumed that humanity had fled to their remaining colonies, which would be conquered one by one. The war was essentially over before it had truly begun. 3 months passed. In that time, the silence only deepened. Concord scouts traveled throughout former human territory and found the same thing everywhere. Empty worlds. Abandoned stations. No sign of where the billions of humans had gone. Rumors began to spread through the Concord. Some said the humans had fled beyond the galactic rim, into the void between galaxies where nothing could survive. Others claimed they had developed some kind of mass suicide technology and had chosen death over submission. A few whispered darker theories. Stories of ghost ships seen at the edge of sensor range. Of strange signals coming from dimensions that should not exist. Korath spent those months studying everything he could find about human history. He read their ancient texts, their myths, their legends. He studied their wars, not just the outcomes but the methods, and the more he learned, the more afraid he became. Humans did not fight the way other species fought. They did not seek honorable battle or quick resolution. When humans went to war, they did so with a totality that the elder races could barely comprehend. They invented new weapons between battles. They changed tactics constantly. They turned every defeat into a lesson, and every lesson into victory. And they never, ever gave up. He found a human word that had no direct translation in his language: attrition. The idea of winning not through superior force but through sheer persistence. The concept of being willing to suffer longer and harder than your enemy. To keep fighting even when all hope was lost. To make victory so costly that it became indistinguishable from defeat. This was how humans thought about war. This was their heritage, their inheritance, their fundamental nature. And the Concord had given them 3 months of silence to prepare. Korath sent one final warning to the elder races. "We must attack now," he urged. "We must find wherever they are hiding and destroy them before they finish whatever they are building. Every day we wait, they grow stronger. Every day we celebrate our victory, they sharpen their knives." The Concord ignored him. Thesson had destroyed the human fleet. Earth was occupied. What more could there possibly be? Then, exactly 90 days after the ultimatum expired, the silence broke. It began with a single signal, broadcast across all frequencies throughout Concord space. The signal contained coordinates for a location in orbit around Valkyrie Prime, the homeworld of the species that had first called for humanity's destruction. The message was simple: "We accept your invitation to war. Please look up." Every Valkyrie on the planet did exactly that. And what they saw made them scream. The sky was full of ships, not the crude, small vessels that the Concord had destroyed so easily. These were monsters of metal and fire, angular shapes covered in weapons that gleamed in the light of the Valkyrie sun. There were thousands of them, more ships than the entire Concord fleet combined, and leading them all was something that defied belief. A vessel so large that it blocked out the stars. A mountain of destruction that the humans called the Defiance. Korath saw the reports from his position at Earth. He watched the sensor data streaming in from Valkyrie Prime. And despite everything, despite all his fears and warnings, he felt a moment of pure admiration. The humans had not been running, they had been preparing. And now, the galaxy was about to learn what happened when you gave humanity a reason to bare its teeth. Admiral Thesson had exactly 11 minutes to realize how badly she had underestimated humanity. She was aboard her flagship in orbit around Earth when the alerts began screaming. Sensor officers shouted readings that made no sense. Communication channels exploded with panicked reports from across Concord space. And on every screen, the same image repeated. Thousands of human warships appearing from nowhere, filling the skies above Elder Race homeworlds like a plague of metal locusts. "That is not possible," Thesson whispered. "We destroyed their fleet. We destroyed their shipyards. Where did these ships come from?" No one could answer her. At Valkyrie Prime, the human fleet moved with terrifying precision. 800 Valkyrie warships rose to meet them, the pride of the oldest elder race, vessels that had dominated the stars for 12,000 years. The Valkyrie commanders were confident. They had superior numbers, superior technology, superior experience. This would be a slaughter. The first exchange of fire proved them right. Valkyrie weapons tore through human shields. A dozen human ships exploded in the opening seconds. The Elder race commanders smiled and pressed their advantage. Then the human ships fired back. The weapons they used had no names in any conquered database. Kinetic projectiles accelerated to nearly the speed of light, hitting with more force than nuclear weapons. Gravity bombs that created tiny black holes, swallowing anything nearby before collapsing. Energy beams that cut through shields as if they did not exist. And something worse, something that the Valkyrie scientists would later call hyperspace breaches, weapons that simply removed matter from existence by pushing it into dimensions where the normal rules of physics did not apply. The Valkyrie fleet died in 11 minutes. 800 ships, the accumulated might of millennia, reduced to expanding clouds of debris. The survivors fled in every direction, their confidence shattered, their weapons useless against enemies they could not touch, and the humans did not pursue. Instead, they broadcast a message to the planet below. The voice belonged to a human admiral named Chen, a small woman with gray hair and cold eyes. People of Valkyrie Prime, your government declared war on humanity. Your fleet attacked our homeworld. Your leaders voted to subjugate or exterminate our species. For these crimes, your military has been destroyed. But we do not make war on civilians. We do not kill those who cannot fight back. This is not who we are. She paused. Tend to your wounded. Bury your dead. When your leaders are ready to discuss peace, they know how to reach us. Until then, we suggest you think carefully about who truly started this war, and why. The human fleet departed, leaving the Valkyrie to stare at the ruins of their power. At Drothari space, the story was different. The Drothari were warriors. They did not run. They did not surrender. When the human fleet arrived, every ship in the Drothari armada rushed to meet them, eager for the glory of battle. The Drothari fought well. They fought bravely. They fought with all the skill and fury that had made them feared across the galaxy. It did not matter. Human ships moved in formations that seemed to anticipate every Drothari tactic. They exploited weaknesses that the Drothari did not know they had. They adapted to every change in strategy, learning and adjusting faster than should have been possible. General Korath, watching from Earth, understood what was happening. The humans had spent 200 years studying the elder races. They had watched every battle, analyzed every tactic, mapped every strength and weakness. They had designed their entire military specifically to defeat the Concord. This was not a war. This was an execution. The Drothari fleet was scattered within hours. Their great fortresses, space stations that had been considered invincible, fell one by one. And still the humans showed restraint. They destroyed military targets. They crippled weapon systems, but they did not bomb cities. They did not slaughter civilians. They could have ended the Drothari as a species, and they chose not to. At Himari space, the crystalline beings learned that their legendary fortresses were not as eternal as they believed. Human gravity weapons shattered their structures like glass. Human hyperspace breaches swallowed their fleets whole. The Himari, who had sung the same songs for 10,000 years, fell silent for the first time in their history. One by one, the elder races experienced the same terrible lesson. Their fleets were destroyed. Their defenses were broken. Their pride was reduced to ash. And everywhere, the humans offered the same message. This war was not their choice, but they would finish it. Secretary General Vasquez addressed the galaxy as the final elder fleet surrendered. 200 years ago, we came to you in peace. We asked only for the chance to exist, to explore, to grow. You could have been our friends. You could have been our teachers. Instead, you looked at us and saw only a threat to be eliminated. You gave us an ultimatum. Submit or die. So we prepared for war while hoping for peace. Her image was broadcast on every screen in Concord space. For 90 days, you thought we were running. You celebrated our defeat. You planned how to divide our territory among yourselves. But we were not running. We were building. In asteroid belts and empty space and dimensions you did not know existed, we built the fleet you see now. We designed weapons specifically to counter each of your species. We developed tactics to exploit every weakness you have shown in 12,000 years of warfare. She looked directly into the camera. You gave us 200 years to watch and learn. You gave us 3 months to prepare. And you gave us something far more valuable than time. You gave us a reason to fight. You reminded every human in the galaxy what we truly are. We are survivors. We are fighters. We are the children of a death world who clawed our way to the stars through blood and fire, and sheer stubborn refusal to die. Around her, holographic displays showed the shattered remnants of the elder fleets. This war is over. You lost. But we are not here to conquer you. We are not here to enslave you. We are not here to do to you what you plan to do to us. We are here to show you that the old ways are finished. The Concord as you knew it is dead. What comes next will be something new, something better, something built on respect rather than fear. She smiled, and there was no cruelty in it. Only exhaustion and hope. We did not want this war. We wanted peace. And now that we have won, peace is exactly what we intend to build. But make no mistake, if anyone threatens humanity again, they will face the same response. We have shown you our teeth. We have shown you what we can do when we are pushed to the edge. Remember this lesson. We will not teach it again. The transmission ended. Throughout the galaxy, trillions of beings sat in stunned silence. The elder races, who had ruled unchallenged for 12,000 years, had been humbled in a single day. Their fleets were gone, their power was broken, and the species they had dismissed as insignificant insects now held the fate of the galaxy in their small, stubborn hands. Admiral Korath, alone in his quarters on a captured ship, found himself doing something he had not done in centuries. He laughed, not in mockery, not in despair, but in genuine admiration for an enemy that had done the impossible. Humanity had won. And somehow, against all odds, they had done it without becoming monsters. That, more than anything else, convinced him that the galaxy might actually survive what was coming next. The grand chamber of the Galactic Concord had never been so quiet. For 12,000 years, this hall had echoed with the voices of the elder races as they decided the fates of civilizations. The 7 great species had sat in their elevated positions, looking down at lesser beings who came to beg for mercy or plead for justice. The architecture itself was designed to intimidate, to remind visitors of their insignificance in the face of eternal power. Now that power was broken, and the silence was deafening. Secretary General Elena Vasquez walked alone across the polished floor, her footsteps echoing in the emptiness. She wore no armor, carried no weapons. Behind her, a single squad of Terran Marines stood at attention, their powered suits gleaming in the ancient light. They were a reminder, nothing more. The real threat was the fleet hanging in orbit outside, the thousands of ships that had humbled the mightiest civilizations in the galaxy. The elder race delegations watched her approach with expressions that ranged from hatred to fear to something that might have been respect. The Velkari would not meet her eyes. The Drothari trembled with suppressed rage. The Hymari flickered in colors that no translator could interpret. Vasquez reached the central podium, the place where no human had ever stood, and turned to face them. 12,000 years, she said softly, her voice carried clearly in the silent chamber. That is how long you have ruled. You have forgotten what it means to struggle. You have forgotten what it means to fight for survival. You have forgotten what it means to be small and weak, and surrounded by things that want you dead. She paused, letting her gaze move from one delegation to another. Humans have never forgotten. We cannot forget. It is written in our genes, in our history, in every story we tell our children. We remember what it was like to be prey. We remember the ice ages and the plagues and the predators. We remember the wars and the disasters and the countless times we nearly destroyed ourselves. And we remember what those experiences taught us. Ambassador Thelios finally spoke, his voice hollow and broken. What did they teach you, human? Vasquez smiled sadly. They taught us that survival is not given. It is earned. Every day, every generation, every moment. They taught us that the universe does not care if we live or die, and so we must care enough for ourselves. They taught us that comfort is a trap, and peace is a gift that must be defended. And they taught us that when someone tries to take our existence from us, we fight, with everything we have, until our last breath, until there is nothing left of us or nothing left of them. She placed a small device on the podium. A holographic display activated, showing images of the destroyed elder fleets. You tried to take our existence from us. You voted for our subjugation or extinction. You sent your armadas to our homeworld and demanded that we kneel. And so we fought. We showed you what 200 years of preparation looks like. We showed you what happens when you push humanity to the edge. The images shifted to show human ships in orbit around each elder race homeworld. We could destroy you. Right now, with a single order, I could end your species the way you planned to end ours. Your fleets are gone. Your defenses are broken. You have nothing left but the mercy of the beings you tried to enslave. Fear rippled through the chamber. Even the proud Drothari seemed to shrink in their seats. But Vasquez shook her head. We will not destroy you. That is not who we are. We fight to survive, not to conquer. We make war when we must, not because we enjoy it, and we understand something that you have forgotten in your 12,000 years of power. The strong protect the weak. The victors shape the peace, and those who have known suffering should never inflict it on others without cause. She touched the device, and a new display appeared. Documents, treaties, proposals, for a complete restructuring of galactic civilization. These are our terms. The Concord as you knew it is finished. The old hierarchy is dead. In its place, we will build something new. Every species, elder or otherwise, will have an equal voice. No more subjugation orders. No more forced conscription. No more treating younger civilizations as resources to be exploited. The galaxy will be governed by cooperation, not domination. A Hymari elder spoke, its crystalline voice filled with skepticism. And what makes you think we will accept these terms? You may have won this battle, but you cannot occupy our worlds forever. Eventually, you will grow tired. Eventually, you will make mistakes. And when that day comes, we will remember this humiliation. Vasquez nodded as if she had expected this. You are right. We cannot occupy your worlds. We have no desire to rule over you. That is not the point. She leaned forward. The point is to change the rules. The point is to create a galaxy where might does not make right, where species work together instead of fighting over scraps, where the ambitions of the few do not doom the many. She straightened. But make no mistake, if anyone threatens humanity again, they will face the same response. Admiral Korath asked me what humans do when our backs are against the wall. Now you all know the answer. We win, whatever the cost, whatever it takes. You have seen what we built in 200 years of peace. Imagine what we would build in 200 years of war. The chamber fell silent again. Every being present was doing exactly that, imagining a future where humanity had centuries to develop even more terrible weapons, to grow even stronger, to spread even further. The thought was horrifying. So here is your choice. Vasquez continued. You can accept these terms. You can join us in building a new galactic order based on mutual respect and cooperation. You can help us create something better than what came before. Or, you can reject them. You can spend the next centuries plotting revenge and rebuilding your fleets and waiting for the moment when you think you are strong enough to challenge us again. She smiled coldly. If you choose that path, we will know. Our intelligence networks are everywhere. Our ships will remain vigilant. And the moment you become a threat, we will respond. Not with warnings, not with ultimatums, just response. Swift, overwhelming, and final. We gave you one chance to destroy us. You failed. There will not be a second chance. The elder races looked at each other. For the first time in their history, they were not the ones dictating terms. They were not the ones holding all the power. They were the supplicants now. The weak ones hoping for mercy from a stronger foe. One by one, they voted. The Velkari accepted. Their pride shattered but their survival instinct intact. The Drothari accepted, recognizing that true warriors knew when they were beaten. The Hymari accepted, their songs shifting to melodies of acceptance and adaptation. The others followed, each species choosing life over pride. The vote was unanimous. Vasquez nodded. Then we begin. It will not be easy. There is much anger on both sides, much pain that will take generations to heal. But we can do it. We can build something worth having, something worth fighting for. She turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. In our histories, in our stories, there is a concept that I want you to understand. We call it humanity. It means more than just our species. It means compassion, kindness, the recognition that every thinking being has value, the belief that we should treat others the way we wish to be treated. She looked back at the elder races. You called us Deathworlders. You called us dangerous and aggressive and unpredictable. You were right. We are all of those things, but we are also capable of great kindness, great sacrifice, great love. We did not destroy you when we could have. We offered peace when we could have demanded submission. Remember that. When you think of humans, remember that we chose mercy when mercy was the harder path. She walked out of the chamber, her marines falling in behind her. In the centuries that followed, the galaxy transformed. The new Concord became something the old one never was. A genuine partnership of species working together for mutual benefit. Conflicts still arose, but they were resolved through negotiation rather than warfare. Younger species were welcomed rather than exploited. And throughout it all, humanity remained vigilant. A quiet reminder of what happened when peaceful intentions were mistaken for weakness. Historians would debate for millennia how the smallest, youngest race had humbled the ancient powers of the galaxy. But those who truly understood knew the answer. Humanity had survived its own death world. After that, surviving the galaxy was simply a matter of determination. And if there was one thing humans had in abundance, it was the stubborn refusal to die.